A big misconception that a lot of people have is they assume that camels need some kind of fancy fencing to keep them in. Maybe they assume that camels are going to jump a fence or will just simply walk over a fence. But you'll be surprised to hear in this video how clever camels are when it comes to fencing and how simple you can set up your property to keep your camel safe and secure. Hey, my name's Tara from camelconnection.com, and today we're going to talk about some camel fencing and what you might require on your property to keep your camels in, even if you have camels already or you're considering on owning them. Now, the really important thing to remember here is there's no set rule about this. Like, you know, what we're going to show you in this video doesn't mean that you should do exactly what we've done. We moved to this property probably about 2 years ago. We haven't done much to the fencing. It was set up for cows and horses and goats. But besides that, like we've only done a little bit of alterations to keep the camels safe and secure into our property. So take this as a guidance of what could be possible for you on your property with your camels, rather than I've got to have exactly like this, because it's not like that at all. And all camels learn differently as well. Younger camels test the boundaries more, physical boundaries with fences. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through this video. I think this video is going to be really helpful to you because we've got a bit of a variety of fencing here. We're in the process of developing some of our fences, and I think when you move to a new property, you sort of find out what works and what doesn't for camels. So this will give you a good idea and a good indicator moving forward on how you can set up your property to keep your camels secure. Again, it can differ. Like, every camel tests the boundaries differently. Some camels, you know, they will totally respect the fences. We've got some camels that respect the fences all the time. Other times, domesticated camels, not so much. So these are some things to keep in mind as we go through this video. I do want to show you this perfect example of what can happen. This happens a lot, we find, with domesticated camels. So if you buy a camel domesticated, they can tend to push the boundaries a bit more than just say a wild caught camel here in Australia. So you can see this gate is very wonky because a camel was pushing on it, and that happens. And of course their weight is so bearing that that would happen in any situation with a camel pushing on a fence. So a solution that we had for this whole gate pushing thing, which they knew they could push on this one because it's not hinged there, because we've literally just put up a new electric wire just here. It's been there a few months. I'll go through that shortly about the electric. But this is what we did to stop the camels, well, one camel in particular to be precise, stop them from pushing on this gate. Fix with any gate is putting up electric wire, you know, just before the gate, just to stop them from leaning against gates and stuff. We see this really commonly, camels leaning on gates, wanting to get to food or greener pastures. So yeah, just a simple kind of hookup system here. Nothing fancy. Like, this stuff here is just that electric rope stuff. Over here we actually have electric wire, works heaps better, that one. The electric rope, you know, actually over time it does actually become rusted out a bit and doesn't work so good. So initially this was our orchard, and as you can see, not much of an orchard at the moment. We had to trim back quite harshly. Our camels actually, when we first moved here, we let them sort of graze into the orchard. There was a fence closer to the orchard, thinking that they'll just trim them. They didn't. They kind of wrecked a lot of the fruit trees here. So we've got apples, and I think there's some citrus in there too. So then we put up this rope fence here, and that has kept them out. But they know when the fence is off, and they will push on this. They've done it several times, or the power's gone out, and they'll push on it and take advantage of that golden opportunity. And camels are very clever. They've pushed on this several times. We've had to fix this numerous times when the power's been off or the power's been out, just to keep them out of this orchard area. But when it's on, they know it's on and they will not go near it. They're so incredibly sensitive, and they can really sense electric from what we've witnessed. Simply from what we've witnessed, they can sense electric really, really well. So here we've got one of our camels, Queen Sheba, and she's currently standing behind an electric fence, which is off, and she would know that through her sensors. But let me show you our electric fence setup, which is relatively new. But again, super simple. We've just put star pickets in. It is a temporary fence until we decide what kind of fence we really want to put there. So, you know, if you're moved to a new place or you're adjusting, you can do these sort of things too really, really simply. You know, with a few star pickets. We've done it on several properties until we've decided what kind of fence we want, if we've owned the property, or just dismantled it at the end if we've been adjusting. So here we've got, so our backyard is just here, or our front yard, and here is electric fence that separates. An old fence used to actually run through there, and the camels would eat all our citrus fruit. Again, they love it. And yeah, simple star picket setup. You know, like I said previously, it's only temporary until we decide what kind of fence we want to put here permanently. But this is all electrified. It's hooked up to mains power, and yeah, it's, you know, that electrifies sort of the orchard area and this around here going up to the camels over there. So again, still electric. For the temporary gate here, we've used wire up the top because that one started to short out, and then just that white poly wire down below. Obviously you get more electric from the wire standalone, and this, you know, it's more sort of electric strips in there rather than just a quick zap from the wire. So out of the 9 camels that we currently have on our property, there's only about 2 that kind of push the boundaries with the fences. They just like to push the boundaries and see how far they can get into things. If the fence is on, they will not do that, but they would generally try to test it anyway. So, you know, always keep that in mind. It differs. Fencing requirements differ to camel personalities, but you can just standardize it, make it electric, and, you know, you've solved any problem that could happen in the future. For us, we kind of thought we'll do trial and error. Oh, see how far they'll push the boundaries. Our mistake, you know, we all go through that, but then in the end it was the electric that we're like, that's just going to be standardized. And for us moving into a new property and stuff, there's always other things you try to prioritize first. You know, it happens, and yeah, the camels eat your apples and oranges, big deal. Fence, we have this wide gauge wire here, and with a barbed wire top. There's no electric here except for this this tape, this wire rope, poly wire rope that we've put around the edge just to keep the camels from leaning over. Camels will definitely lean on fences, lean over fences and on fences, even with barbed wire, because they've got such thick skin. Barbed wire is just there. Because they've got such thick skin, they really can't feel a lot of the barbed wire, especially if they've got their winter woolies, like their winter fur happening. So that's something to keep in mind too. Like the boundary fences here, our camels don't tend to test a lot, but they test all the internal fences. Our camels, they kind of know their land and they know exactly where they should be. But if it's closer to the house and they know that there's humans around, like their owners, we find that they will test the internal boundaries more than the external boundaries. If a camel does get out of ours, they will kind of just feel a little bit insecure, maybe walk around a bit, and, you know, maybe even come back in, especially if the rest of the herd is here. So yeah, like a camel will only usually try to push on fences and stuff, well, you know, if they're bored, you know, if they need more stimulation, which training and handling and walking with them and, you know, taking them out for feeds and foraging is really good for stimulation. And of course working them as well. This wide gauge wire is pretty standard through our property, and once we bought it, most of our boundary fences are made of that. And yeah, again, they will push on barbed wire. They're not really fazed by it. But it's all to do with what's going on in the camel. Like, are your camels being stimulated enough? You know, are you handling them? Are you training them? Because they crave for connection, especially if, you know, there's only a couple of them in a herd. They definitely are really interested in you as a person and as owner, especially if they see you all the time too. They are built for connection. They connect with each other in their herd environments, and they want to connect with humans too. They're very inquisitive creatures and they want to get to know you. You find, you know, like depending on the camel, if another animal comes in the paddock, they'll be inquisitive about that animal. So there's lots of things to consider with the fencing, and also how you're managing managing your camels, you know, making sure that they are stimulated, making sure that they are handled and all that sort of stuff. Bigger properties, obviously not such a big deal if you've just got camels for weed eating and there's lots of variety for them. It's very unlikely that they're going to go outside the boundary or even try push on fences and stuff, because the more variety of feed a camel has, the less likely they're going to push on fences and try to get to the next best thing. And the same be said for variety in their everyday feed with the hays and all that sort of stuff. Like whatever you're feeding them, they love variety, they need variety, and that's something to really consider when camel ownership is. You can't expect camels just to graze on grass and be happy with that. They will not be. They will push on fences and they'll want to get to places like the bush where it's much more tasty over there. So through this video, we've given you a bit of an indicator on some type of fencing that you can incorporate into your property. If you're considering owning camels, or maybe you're having a bit of camel fencing problems with camels pushing on the fence, highly recommend our Camel Husbandry ebook for a variety of things that you can feed your camel and the supplements that they need, especially in domesticated environments. As soon as you take a camel out of their desert environment, you're going to have to supplement them. You're going to have to replicate their natural feeding patterns as best as you possibly can. So you can head over to our website, to our camel shop, and grab our Camel Husbandry ebook there. And you'll find, a wealth of knowledge there, some really basic stuff that you can just start implementing into your camel's health and well-being so that you got some healthy camels. Just a quick tip on healthy camels. A lot of people say, my camel's really healthy, no biting. But, you know, you really don't know that until you've done bloods and you've done parasitic tests and all of that sort of stuff. So it's really important to get your camel on those sorts of programs. And that's exactly what we talk about and teach in our Camel Husbandry ebook. Okay, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.